Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make liver and onions real quick. This is liver that's been soaking in milk for a few hours, probably 7 or 8. Something you can do before you go to work, just put the liver in the milk. You want to carefully take it out, shake it up, and throw it in a flour. Just let it sit in there real fast for a couple minutes before we cook it. I got peppers and onions. I'm going to cut up my potatoes for the mashed potatoes. I like to leave the skin on because it looks better and I think it tastes better. I got the pot of water for these potatoes already starting to heat up. That way by the time I get done cutting the potatoes and the onions, the water will be ready to boil and I can just drop the potatoes in. Alright, we'll set these over here to the side, and when that water starts to boil, we'll put the potatoes in. So I cut the onions in half first, because it's a little easier to peel them. Chop the top and bottom off. are just yellow onions, by the way. They're not too strong. They end up pretty good. Yeah. I like putting the red and green onions in because it adds a little extra, like, sweet flavor. Take these over and wash them out real quick. It's always better to cut these from the back rather than the front, or the inside, I should say. So when you mash them down flat, you have less of a chance of cutting yourself. Alright, here we are. Almost there. So, we're waiting for the potatoes. Want to season your liver. So, this is sea salt. Just give it a little bit. Not a lot, because you don't want liver to dry out. I mash it in because it's kind of coarse. Pepper. Garlic. Garlic powder. Garlic powder is better because if you use like garlic cloves and chop them up or get the minced garlic, it'll burn in the pan and give it a funny taste. And this is celery seed. You don't have to add any of this stuff, but it just adds something to it. Alright, real fast, I use one of these disposable chopping boards. Get a little flour on it so when I put the liver on something, I don't have to figure out how to just lay it in the pan when it's hot. It'll just slide right off of here. You can get these things at the dollar store. Okay, water's boiling, so put in your potatoes. And about 10 minutes it takes for the potatoes to get where you want them to be before you start heating your pan and add oil, then your onions and peppers. I'll be back when the potatoes are ready to go and we can start the peppers and onions. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and turn the heat on about halfway on your pan. Add a little oil. You can tell when the oil gets hot because it starts to make waves on the top. You don't want it to really be smoking. Try to coat the bottom of the pan a little. Don't need much oil. You can tell it's starting to get hot because you can kind of see the burner on the top of the oil. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but you can see it's heating up a little bit and it's making waves on the actual oil. Doesn't take very long. Once it's like that, I'll take and add my peppers. And grab my onions and sort of break them up in there. I want to throw them in whole chunks so they won't really cook right, so. Now I've seen people really seriously overcook the onions and the peppers, and you don't have to do that. You just want to cook them until they're hot. Like, think about it like heating up the vegetables until the onions will almost be done when they're nearly clear. And what we're going to do is cook them almost till they're finished. put them back in the bowl so that we can cook our liver. And then add the onions back to it. Now the best way to get this done is to cover it. You want to come back and move it around a little bit every few minutes or so, but it shouldn't take longer than 5 at tops. I'll be back in a minute. So I'm coming back to stir it again. I've already stirred it once. It's important to keep it covered in between, because what you want to do is get a bunch of the juice that's coming out of the onions and the peppers and get it to stay in the pan. If you leave it uncovered, it will evaporate or reduce, or whatever you want to call it, like the moisture goes away. So you just want to keep it from, stir frying too much or browning it. Just want to heat up the vegetables, like I said before. Okay, I'll be back again in another couple minutes. Okay, it's getting just about done. The onions are almost clear. And you can see how the red pepper has turned a little bit orange. Like most of the onions are cooked pretty good. So what we're going to do is take this and put it in a bowl. Set the bowl off to the side here. Add a little bit more oil. Leave the heat where it is. Sure you got the pan coated pretty good. And I like to add a little bit of butter. Because it makes it taste better. And who doesn't like a little butter, right? Alright. Now we take our disposable chopping board, and this makes it easier to put in there nice and flat. Now the important thing with this is to not let it go very long. You don't need very long at all in order to cook this liver. usually cook it until you start seeing a good amount of the top of it soaked with blood like that. You can see how just the difference in a few seconds of me putting the first one in and putting the second one in affects the meat. It doesn't take very long, maybe a minute at tops. We're almost done. Now this one looks like it can be flipped. This one. And I turn the heat off. I take my bowl of vegetables. And add them just like that. You can see how even after time, even though they're not on the stove, the onions have cooked a little bit more and how they're a little bit clearer. I don't know if you can tell. It smells really good. After a few more seconds, I cover it up and set it off to the side. Usually on a cool burner. Now I can make my potatoes. So I add a little bit of milk. A good scoop of yogurt. Small scoop of mayonnaise. Pepper. A little bit of salt. Now, important thing is, I didn't put any spices on the onions and the peppers. Not yet. I'm going to put the same thing I did, the garlic and the celery seed, on top, but I'm going to do that when it's on the plate. You don't want to put the spices on before you cook it, because spices have a tendency to burn in the bottom of the pan and make funny tastes. So if you just cook the food without anything on it, short of some salt and maybe a little bit of pepper, you can be sure that even if you let it cook for a little too long, you won't have any burned taste like the garlic that I said earlier. There we go, mashed potatoes. Be back in a second. And that is the finished deal. Liver and onions with mashed potatoes, otherwise known as Monica's Sunday dinner. Here's what the liver looks like without the onions covering it. I didn't even really think about it, but you can see what it looks like when it's finished. Alright. Hope you like it. Is it good, sugar?
Yes.